Yeah, guys, and welcome to the Movie Overload podcast. Each week we cover one of the 100 essential films, from A Trip to the Moon to Parasite, and everything in between except Woody Allen. Fuck Woody Allen.
Fuck Woody Allen.
I'm Hannah.
I'm Reese.
I'm just Hunter, I guess.
Just Hunter today?
Just
That's all
Hunter.
that's left.
You gotta say he's the guy in the corner.
Well, I mean,
Oh.
you are in a corner,
Am I?
Yes.
and I am
I guess.
uncomfortable with you being here.
Oh.
So,
I
you know,
can-
So yeah.
Hey, I can take my report and go.
Fine,
That's fine.
That way.
You guys will
Go.
probably be actually
Yeah.
fine with that.
I don't even want you here.
Hannah and I will talk about Citizen Kane.
Intellectuals.
Yeah. And Orson, my love.
Oh, man.
After I bring you drinks.
He's an interesting
cookies.
He's an interesting kind of a looker.
He is. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily think he's attractive, but there's
He's
something
also not
really
Unattractive.
No.
Like, he's just interesting.
there's something
Mhm.
like really charismatic about him or something. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
hi. Anyway,
Anyway,
Hunter.
he's dead. We don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have to fight you for him.
Not this time.
Not this time.
Don't
Ryan
worry, there will be
Gosling
other
on the
fights
other
in the
end.
future. Yeah.
We would have fought over Charlie Chaplin and
Oh, hell
Orson
yeah.
Welles.
Uh-huh. Man, even like 50-year-old Charlie Chaplin is still like kind of my speed, you know.
You can make it work.
I can make it
You
work.
can make it work. I support you, honestly.
Thanks.
All right.
Ugh.
All right. Just kidding. Hey, Hunter,
Whoa.
we're staying focused this time.
Whoa.
Fo-
We did such a good
focus.
job staying focused. Did you hear all that?
Focus. This time we can talk about the movie. Well, see, now I'm nervous about it.
Yeah,
Just,
see? Feel
you
my
know,
pain. Also, we
because-
have been refreshed with sugary snacks and
have.
soda, and for some of us, wonderfully unplanned
Caffeinated
naps.
drinks.
Yep.
Oh,
yes,
yeah. Mhm.
caffeinated drinks. I just don't really
No,
remember
it's
passing
good.
out on the couch, but
Really? You were sprawled out so dramatically.
Yeah.
Like
I
your
remember
hair
like
was,
getting
like-
comfy, but I don't remember you getting here with the drinks or like you guys leaving the room.
Oh, I
I'm
didn't
pretty
leave the room. I
sure
stayed right here.
when I asked if you I don't know. You
What
were
were
like
you doing?
I asked
I was
if you
playing
were
a video
awake or ready or something, and you nodded a little bit.
Yeah. No, I
think
thought you were
totally
awake.
did, yeah.
We thought you were partially awake.
Yeah.
Guys, I
And
was
I
not.
set it over there. So anyway,
Oh,
I do weird things in my sleep. Fun fact about Hannah.
I mean,
this is true.
you really you just look like one of those Disney princesses like crying over a bed and their hair's like flopped everywhere and just like it seemed like the peak of like dramaticism. to
That
me.
is me
Yeah.
in a person.
It was kind of great.
That's good stuff. I didn't walk though. That's good.
No, not yet. Not
Mm.
yet.
Not yet.
I've heard that you've done that, but like,
Wear your retainers, kids.
well,
That's what they told me. But then I get up in the middle of the night and I put them back in the bathroom.
Really?
Yeah.
That's one
I
of
wook up the other day and they
slightly
were
more
back in
extreme
the
ones.
glass in the bathroom, and I was like, oh
How-
no.
my word.
Or just like when you're in your room, they'll appear under your bed or something.
Yeah,
wasn't
or
it?
like tucked away in drawers
In
that
the
are
drawer,
nowhere
yeah.
near me.
How
So weird.
I don't want to know, so I just don't think
you don't
about
ever
it.
like set up a camera?
I'm
in your room
scared.
to,
I don't know
like,
what else I'm doing.
see what you're getting up to.
Maybe I like sleep
funny.
eat.
That could be fun.
I could maybe I go on sleepwalks around the neighborhood.
Hmm.
People totally do that.
I guess it's possible.
Hmm.
That's really scary.
I
though.
know, right?
Yeah,
Sleep drive.
I wouldn't really want to know at
Exactly.
that point. Yeah.
Like I'm okay now, so I'm just gonna keep vibing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Hmm.
Okay. Now that I've successfully gotten off topic.
Now let's get right on top. let's
Are-
do this.
Are we gonna do
thing.
this?
Let's just
Are we gonna
do
talk about
this.
this honkin' movie?
honkin' movie?
What a time to be alive.
Let's talk about this honkin' movie.
Honky chonky movie.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's like
I don't know. It just came to me.
it's the movie.
It is
Which
kind of the movie.
It
None
is.
of us have seen before
Yeah.
until yesterday.
Yeah.
It's Citizen Kane.
It's like
Wow.
it's like quite literally, yeah, the movie, often considered the greatest film of all time,
and possibly for good
I was gonna
reason.
say we will not be disputing that. I don't think.
I don't think so.
I would not contest it. I think it is real solid. Spoilers. Movie that everyone says is good actually is kind of good.
Yeah, I mean, okay. When
It's
I
more
told
than
one of my
kinda good.
friends that, like, I was like, so Citizen Kane is good. I was like, I know that's unsurprising, but it's fact.
Right. Yeah.
And he was like, nah, man, like, I've heard that it's actually not as good as people say it is. And I was like, oh, to me, that just sounds like people that are like, actually, I have, like, higher standard. Like,
Right.
that, to me, I think that's the pretentious take, is to say that
Yeah.
it's actually not that good.
And sometimes
you
that
know?
happens,
Right.
but like,
But in this
This is
case,
an
I really feel like, I don't know, like, there are people that are pretentious about, like, have you ever heard of, like, some movie that everybody's seen and is really good? And that there are those kinds of pretentious people, and then there are the kinds of pretentious people like, actually, that thing that everybody says is good actually isn't good, because I have, like, more of a critical eye and
Right.
whatever. And I
think this
feel
is,
like the people that I hear be like, Citizen Kane isn't that good, definitely fall into that second category for
Yeah.
me.
I don't know. I would think this holds up to a lot of the same kind of like examination.
It holds up to modern standards pretty
Yeah,
well, I think.
totally.
People are just like, maybe some people are like, oh, it doesn't hit me emotionally, which is like the
I don't
kind
think
of thing where it's like,
supposed to
yeah,
necessarily.
that's the point. In the
Yeah.
same way that the squid and the whale, you're going to have to deal with pretentious characters. That is
Yes.
the point of the movie.
Yep. Oh, I love it.
Anyway,
So
I don't want to rant about it before we even get
it's all
on to the
good.
topic, but
It's a good preamble, which is good because I actually completely forgot to write a little summary for this.
Well,
Perhaps that will do.
you would. Oh, true. I was gonna say, if you want a moment, I have something I can share.
Please.
Ooh.
Reese,
Uh-huh.
when I say rosebud, what do you think of?
That's a girl? Is that a female
No,
friend?
it's a reference
Oh gosh.
to
No.
the essential film,
Oh.
Over the Hedge.
Interesting.
One of the characters says it.
Whoa. So Citizen Kane, like, is like referencing Over the Hedge?
It is.
That's surprising. That's really cool, actually.
I know.
See, I thought of Nosebud,
Mm.
the boat
Mm.
from that one episode of Phineas and Ferb.
Ah,
But
Nosebud.
That's great.
That's
Yeah.
a good one.
he goes,
yeah, like
Nosebud.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I had no idea, and yeah, I've just heard it referenced. I admit, like in Over the Hedge, I saw Over the Hedge enough times to hear that line and be like, why the heck does he say that when he's
Uh-huh.
pretending to die? And now I know, and it's kind of great.
I think I also, like, I think the Dick Van Dyke Show did an episode
Probably.
where there was, like, this whole episode on how did their son get the name that he had, because he had, like, this really complicated middle name. And I think it's something to do with Rosebud, and I was like, I don't know. It
Yeah.
seemed like it was referencing something, because
Probably.
it was like a punchline, and I never understood why that was a punchline as a kid.
Yep.
Anyway, all the punchlines still don't make sense, so that's great.
But the point of that is definitely that Rosebud is very memorable and very easily quotable, and it has totally like permeated culture in ways.
That is true.
It's very easy to just kind of slip in, I guess.
You can just slip in a
So,
Rosebud.
Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah, I did also like the Colorado references.
Yeah, there was some Colorado stuff in there. It's our state.
It's
our
the
stuff.
state of kings
We like Colorado.
and queens.
Hey.
Things aren't always the best there.
But why?
In a lot of ways, they're significantly better than they are in other states.
This is true. Fair, fair.
So I'm happy. I'm happy with the way we are now. Although, looks like back in the day, apparently, we were just kind of a shack with a lot of
Guess.
snow,
But
so-
also like
Indeed.
a mine and
a
some
massive
gold.
load.
Yeah. And he
That's
didn't know it
it.
was there.
Which
beginning of
I
this
guess
movie is
we have
wild.
mines. Do we? Is that an actual thing?
I don't know, honestly.
There are some coal mines that I'm aware of.
Probably. I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know.
No.
Tragic. Fine, I guess I will be the expert today.
I do know that this is our first movie from 1941. Hooray.
We made it.
Directed, co-written, produced, and starring Orson Welles.
Gosh.
And this was his first movie. This
Wait.
is the first thing he ever put on film.
Wait.
Yeah.
This is his debut film.
Uh-huh. And we'll get into it, but that's kind of part of the reason why it's so good. I mean, which is really fun.
I mean,
Yeah.
Reese's one just exploded. I saw it combust inside of his forehead.
I wondered if you knew that.
Something's leaking
I
out of
didn't
your
know
ears.
that. I assumed it would not have been his first thing.
It hurts. It hurts.
It was.
He like literally nobody ever could ever like.
You make your first movie and people laud it for decades as the greatest movie ever made. Like, how?
I mean,
Took a lot of work. I'll tell you that.
like Kurosawa's first 3 movies are almost just plain bad. You know?
That's how it usually goes, I guess.
Right.
Usually takes
Paul
some-
Thomas
some
Anderson's
running.
second movie is on this list, but first movie, no way in hell.
Mhm.
How the hell?
Just came out of the gate swinging. And again, we will talk about that. Because
I'm very excited to hear
his,
about that.
his newness is kind of the impetus for the greatness of it,
Huh.
in a way. And just coupled with the kind of person that he was. So
Right.
he was nominated for 9 Academy Awards and only won 1 for Best Original Screenplay.
I mean, it deserved that,
Mm-hmm.
but also like cinematography, man.
Right, I know. Kind of
I-
underappreciated.
What won that year for cinematography?
I
Do we know?
do not know.
Because that would
I'm
be
not
really interesting.
properly
Because
equipped for research.
at least for me, the way that movie is shot, the amount of depth that those shots have,
Mm-hmm.
That's what Hunter
It's
talked
like
about.
We will talk about that.
insane.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
Talk
And
about
they pulled
that.
that off multiple
Because-
different ways. Again, part of the fun.
I'm
So
Just like the
Yeah.
way, I can't believe I really didn't catch on. Like, I was looking at it and I'm like, wow, this looks interesting and different, but I don't know
Mhm.
why.
right.
And Hunter was like, this and this and
Yep.
this.
I had
And I was like,
just
oh,
I had done a little bit of research before, just like listened to some videos and stuff, like while working and driving, and
Mhm.
just kind of hearing like the big points about it, and then kind of was looking for some of it while watching. And yeah, there's just a few really interesting and not the first implementations of a lot of these things, but just brought a lot of things together that a lot of other movies had done in a very interesting way and made them all very just like, here you go, here's everything in this big Hollywood blockbuster, basically.
Mhm.
And just nailed all of them.
Yeah.
And it was
Man.
great.
I had to pause the movie halfway through to just scream at the television. That's how I know I
believe
like
it.
a movie. I'm not
Yeah.
even kidding. I do that. Like
Okay.
when there are movies that just like really work for me, I will pause and I will scream at it. I'll just be Why did I reveal this on a
So great.
podcast?
Should I
My
be worried
weirdest
about
movie
you?
watching habit. I'm just like,
It's not like Leo DiCaprio yell. It's like
No.
just a distress.
it's just a like, how does it work so well? This hurts. It's like fire is being poured through my veins for 2.5 hours, or how this
2
one's
hours
only
about. It's like a
two
little
fi-
under. It's like,
2:05?
it's like 1:59, I think.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
yeah, it's pretty tight.
Merp.
2 hours.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, man, it doesn't drag.
No, I think it's pretty
It
solid
doesn't.
and engaging
I went
the
by
whole way.
fast.
Mm.
I had a pretty good time.
I appreciate the intense stares, the lack of blinking, and
Mm.
how they like spoke to each other,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and some of the sass. It was like, whoa,
Mm.
sassy.
And just the way that you get so involved in like narratives within narratives, and then
yeah.
when they pull out, you're like, oh,
Right.
it's like you were in a trance.
Yeah. We can, I guess, should we say like a brief summary of the movie, I guess? so we
Yeah,
can just kind of give
Oh, yeah,
context.
sorry.
Dive in, my
So
boy.
like, it's really fun, and this is another thing that like it kind of did differently was the way that it kind of had like that non-linear flashback structure was
Mhm.
almost unheard of at the time. Like it starts at the end when Charles Foster Kane dies and whispers the word rosebud and bleh, and then these journalists or you see the newsreel of like, all right, here's kind of in brief hit the story of his life, like from beginning to end. And you get all the high points, and these journalists are like, oh, why did he say Rosebud? Like, what does that mean? And they're like, all right, hey, you, go figure it out. And so this guy just like kind of goes to a bunch of people that knew Kane, and is like interviewing them about his life to try and figure out like if any of them knew what that word meant. And TLDR, he doesn't get very far. He learns a lot of like stories about his life, but doesn't actually get any ground. And then at the end you find out what it means in a different, like, not in character perspective.
Yeah.
It's just kind of just the camera sees.
It's just for the audience, but it
just fun.
It's interesting because it still doesn't mean anything, and that's kind of the point, maybe?
Yeah, there's kind of a theme to it in a way that has been talked about. Like, spoilers, Rosebud is Kane's sled that he was like playing with in the snow on the day that he was like signed over to become a rich man's ward instead of staying in Colorado in his little shack with his parents, I guess.
His abusive father, I guess?
Maybe, I don't know.
Because he was like, that kid needs a thrashing, and then the mom was like, that's why he's going over there to get away from you.
I want to watch that scene again because I feel like I probably didn't totally catch everything that was happening there. But
my impression was just that it was like very, I don't know, small and like poor and cold, and he was alone. Like, I mean, there were no other kids around. And
I think they were just trying to get him somewhere better.
Yeah.
But I think to him it is like a loss of childhood kind of thing. Like that was the turning point.
Well, I mean, I think that was part of the reason, but it was also like, I don't think she wanted her son being raised by that guy.
Yeah.
That's fair.
That's fair.
I remember like thinking there was a lot of throwing around of the sled in that scene.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But they don't ever show it to you.
Yeah,
blatantly.
You don't see the name or anything.
Yeah, so it was funny.
And they mentioned, like, kind of in the first half of the movie, he's like, I was just going to go, like, look at some of my things that were brought from my home in Colorado. He's in, like, Chicago now or something. Mm-hmm. And then they don't actually go there and see any of it. But then at the end of the movie, they're like, this is all junk. Burn it. And then you just see the sled burning, and you see the name on it.
Oh.
And you're like, oh, it was his little childhood thing.
Right.
And
but
the
like
meaning of that kind of depends, I guess.
But it wouldn't have meant anything to the reporters. Like, it wouldn't have put his whole life in context, you know, in the way that like they were wanting.
And one of them, he kind of mentions that at the end. He's like, you know, you can't really define a man's life by just the one word. It's like he's a human being. He's got a lot going on. So
yeah,
we did learn some stuff, maybe conflicting, weird narratives about this guy, but it was interesting. He's an interesting dude for sure.
Yeah, it's like, definitely the way some people tell it. He seems like a lot nicer of a person, a lot cooler, and other people he's like a very intimidating and like kind of scary figure.
Yeah, and a lot of them kind of had more contact with him at different parts of his life.
Right.
And then it definitely paints a picture of him kind of getting more reserved and bitter as he grows older.
Which, man, feels like that kind of reflects Orson Welles' life, actually.
There's some talk about that for sure, yeah.
Tell me about that.
I mean, I guess I actually don't know a lot of details. You might be more equipped to talk about that.
I did watch the documentary on his later career.
About that. I just remember I only heard it mentioned that might be kind of the case even at the time for him, because, like, I don't know, something about him, like, not actually engaging with the movie once it was finished very much. Like, he only saw it in full, like, one time, and was just like, and people were like, I don't know, maybe it kind of hit close to home on some aspects for him.
Yeah, he definitely didn't seem, at least from the documentary, like he was very concerned with his own legacy. Like he wasn't like particularly proud of his accomplishments in a weird way. It wasn't like he wasn't, but he was almost just more concerned with like, okay, let me make the next thing. This is going to be great. No, this one's going to be really good, guys.
Yeah.
And, like the way that the film industry treats any career, no matter how successful, at some point they're just like, no, you're done. And they won't fund your projects, and nobody will deal with you. They'll be like, yes, we'd love to get you down for an interview and talk about how you directed the greatest film ever made. But no, we don't. We're not going to fund your next movie,
Right.
Which is just, I don't know why it is that it works that way. But this, I mean, Kurosawa obviously ran into the same issues.
Right.
But Orson Welles didn't have George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola trying to help him. He actually just had Francis Ford Coppola trying to help him. But that was before The Godfather, so Coppola had literally no sway, so it didn't do anything, and he couldn't get Welles' career off the ground again.
Interesting.
But yeah, he ended up just kind of getting more and more bitter, more and more weird. He's staying with friends for long periods of time. They didn't want him there, and he kind of became, at least as far as I remember, kind of an alcoholic. And then he's just, nothing ever really picked up. After, a few of the early movies, Magnificent Ambersons, etc. When he was trying to actually get The Other Side of the Wind done, it was just,
right.
It was never going to happen. It took him 20 years of trying and just didn't do it.
And then still didn't come out until a couple of years ago.
Yep, until till Netflix made it happen and had people finish it and had it released in 2017.
Kind of a Frankenstein form, just got a bunch of stuff together.
And I mean,
I do want to see it. I want to watch more of his stuff for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely not like this. I've only seen, I didn't log it because I haven't seen the entire thing all the way through.
Gotcha.
But it's creative like this in the same way where it's using multiple sources. You know what I mean? It feels like it's narratives within narratives, but it's also newsreel footage and now this and it's all that, but
nice.
In a way that's very surreal. It's one guy's trying to make this really weird European surrealist movie, and then it just has 20 minutes of that movie in there and then goes on to something else. It is very reminiscent of, which is probably a more niche pull, so I don't know why this is what I'm comparing it to, but Ursula K. Le Guin's book Always Coming Home, which is the same kind of let's explore this world or this idea, this story through multiple different mediums and stories within a story. Somebody wrote this book who's one of the characters in this world, and we'll just detour for 100 pages on that, and just kind of trying to do this really epic thing that you're writing within writing within writing, and I don't know.
Sounds cool.
It's interesting for sure.
For sure.
Yeah. Especially when his directorial style just completely changes to try to direct as this fictional director would direct,
Right. Sounds fun. I'll check it out for sure.
He just has a ridiculous amount of talent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that he's the one that did the radio show of War with the Worlds, right?
Yeah, so he had so he was on Broadway and stuff doing theater. He had the Mercury Theater that he co-founded.
That's
so
awesome.
They did stage productions. Was definitely very good at that.
Did I list any shows he had done? I can look him up.
I did not catalog those.
That's okay.
Might look at them. I'm sure it would be easy to find. But yes, so the Mercury Theater also had a radio side, and they did the radio things. They did the War of the Worlds, which may or may not have caused mass hysteria. But
yeah, that's an interesting topic.
Yeah, for sure. And I kind of want to go back and listen to that. I assume you can find it.
Yeah, I think so.
There's recordings of
Dougal also did an entire episode about it.
Okay.
So I do recommend that.
Nice.
I will. I'm going to be plugging that podcast on this podcast probably a lot.
It's all good. But yeah, so he'd been doing all that. And then Hollywood was aware of him, and they'd been trying to get him to make movies. Apparently he'd been turning down a few scripts since 1936, 5 years before this movie came out.
Dang.
And then he was maybe kind of having a lower point in the theater stuff, and RKO hits him with a bonkers contract where he would act in, direct, produce, and write 2 films, and then what was it? Mercury Theater gets $100,000 and 20% of profits. Blah, 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 money things. But the crazy thing about it was that they were saying that Welles would retain full creative control basically over the entire thing. He got final cut privilege, which was really wild. Everything and cast and crew, all just was it was entirely up in his discretion, and it made a bunch of people mad. They're that's not how anyone does things. No one has that much control. Why are you giving it to this guy who's never even made a movie before? But it worked out. It's
probably the best decision RKO has ever made.
And he never got that opportunity again ever. Like, even though the contract was for 2 movies, there's something happened and it lapsed after Citizen Kane, and he kind of lost some of those privileges, even though the movie was good.
Right. Well, that's what's so weird about the way that the film industry works, is it's like, it's not really about it's not always really about your critical or commercial success.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it just won't happen.
Mm-hmm. And I guess it didn't quite make its money back in the box office. So like, but it definitely is one of those ones that like, it was kind of a mixed reception when it came out. And I guess it's always been mixed in some ways.
Huh.
But like definitely got a revival in like the 50s.
Right.
And it kind of came back and people were like, oh wait, hey, this is actually like amazing and we should remember this forever. So.
And we did.
And then we did.
Yeah, it really is. It's like the quintessential movie that everybody knows about, but like most people I talk to haven't actually seen.
I've heard about it for years and just like never got around to it because it didn't feel super important. And now I'm glad that we did get around to it because it is very cool. Like, you can easily see how influential it was, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the way I hear it discussed is a lot of the things that's like, there's a lot of stuff in Citizen Kane that's like, it may not be super surprising to modern eyes because it's like we're kind of used to seeing a lot of things, but like a lot of those things were not common before it. Like, they were around, but like this kind of popularized a lot of editing techniques and just a lot of things.
Those like really nice long fades at the beginning are just so great.
Yeah, like the long fades.
Like from the very opening shots of that movie, I'm like, I think this is really, really interesting. Or just the way that it looks like this like weird, creepy castle, and then you figure out that it's like not set in this like old time because of there's like a sign that's like says it's like a golf course or something.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
The whole all the big montage of Xanadu is so funny.
Yeah.
I guess some of the shots of that are like real places. Some of it's a real building, and a lot of stuff, I guess, in Xanadu is matte paintings.
Dang.
So like, yeah, they mixed a lot of things into this movie.
It just, nothing about that production, like, you don't see the strings.
Mm-hmm.
You really don't see the strings in this movie,
all.
like pretty much at all.
They went a lot further on this than most movies did, and they did it all pretty successfully. Like, yeah, they went really hard. Again, we'll talk about that more because I tried to note down most of it, at least the big points, and it's fun. One fun note is that like before Citizen Kane got going and they were kind of trying to settle on a project, he was going to adapt Heart of Darkness, which he'd already done a play of, and apparently they were going to film it in first person, which would have been insane.
That's crazy.
That's awesome.
Didn't work out. There were some budget constraints and just never really got off the ground, but we got Citizen Kane instead, so it was okay.
Yep. I'm fine with that.
Right. And it sounds like he was like the production advisor on the film, Miriam Geiger, had made like a little handmade book about filmmaking and just like gave it to Orson Welles, and he was like kind of learning and being like, all right, here's your like filmmaking textbook, here you go.
My gosh.
Apparently just kind of he started watching The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari to like match what he was reading to what he was seeing, and like making the vocabulary, like having examples actually in front of him.
Yeah.
And also Stagecoach, I guess, which I'm not familiar with.
I've heard the name.
I guess that was another one that he said he watched like 40 times. He would just have it on like constantly, and he would watch it over and over again with different like technicians and experts in different areas and like ask them questions and just be like, how does this aspect of the thing work? He said it was like school. It's
That's
like
so crazy.
Boy, he leaned into this so hard and was just like, I want to know all of it.
Man, it's so bonkers that they were like, oh, you need to make a movie.
Yeah.
And he like didn't know
for so long. Like, he was so invested in the theater side. Like, that was kind of where his heart was set.
I just looked at that. He did that for so long. That's
and he was really young too when he did this. He was like 25, I think.
It said 1918 through.
He was 25 when he directed this.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
He was 25 when he directed his first film, the greatest film ever made.
What? I'm shook.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he was born 1915. So
Oh, well, then he started theater when he was 3 years old. Because his first theater credit was 1918.
It seems to be the way.
And he was playing leads really early on. Like, he was Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde in Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. He was Scrooge in A Christmas Carol at a really young age. He got seriously into Shakespeare. Sorry, I fell into a rabbit hole looking at it.
I want to hear about it.
He did, like,
bonkers.
Twelfth Night, Macbeth, Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet. Like, he did all of them.
I can't.
Bonkers,
I mean,
boy.
It's definitely been said before, but the amount of talent that this guy had is like, I mean, it puts probably everybody to shame.
Literally. What the heck?
Oh my gosh.
So, and it's fun because not only was he really talented, but he was surrounded by very talented people, of course. Like, obviously, you've got the actors on stage, most of them from his Mercury Theater Company, which the credits kind of note. They're like, I like that they had that at the end of the movie. They're like, hey, a lot of these people, like, are kind of new to film, and we're happy to have them. It was cool.
Yeah, it's fun to see that in, like,
Yeah.
just, like, remaining in the edit, you know? It's cool.
It was cool. They also note, so cinematographer Greg Toland is a big part of this as well. So he had already been working for a while. He knew what he was doing. He requested the job. Like, he wanted to be on this movie specifically because he wanted to work with someone who hadn't done film before. And it was like, gosh, there's a quote I had here somewhere. I must have lost it. But, like, there's a note that Orson Welles, like, he had that ignorance of the beginner. Like, he didn't know what the conventions were, and that kind of let him ask questions and attempt things that weren't normal because he just didn't know what you could and couldn't do. So he's like, can we do this? And they were like, maybe. And then they did.
Go
So,
him.
like, I did get the quote from him
Failing
talking
his way
about
to success.
Yeah, like he was saying about Toland, he was like, he never tried to impress us that he was doing any miracles. I was calling for things only a beginner would have been ignorant enough to think anybody could ever do, and there he was doing them. Things like, you know, moving, like folding walls, moving furniture to kind of make way for the camera, to move just through sets and stuff, or like, they
that
dug a
looks so
hole
good.
in a concrete floor to have like a really low angle shot.
Wow.
And you could see the ceilings in this movie, which is also really weird. I guess that was just like a convention. Like, you just wouldn't have ceilings in your sets.
Right.
You would just have the
For
microphones
lights
and stuff
and-
up there,
yeah.
and lights and stuff.
They still
And
do
they're
that.
like, nah, we're going to make ceilings. So that you can actually, like, I don't know, real places have ceilings. So we're going to have ceilings. And they still, I think, stuck microphones and stuff up there.
This kind of information is just, like, as mind-blowing as that movie.
Yeah, like, again, they put so much into this. So, but I think that's just really fun, that idea of, like, you know, he didn't have the weird shackles of convention because he didn't know what he was doing. And then Toland kind of being like, I know he's going to be that way. I want that challenge to go for the things that he's going to suggest. And then, like, they just nailed it.
And then they just, like, do literally everything that is the reason why Blade Runner is good.
Right. Yeah.
Every element
There's a
that
lot
I,
of
like, truly, like,
similarities.
deeply love about Blade Runner is present here.
Like, the lighting's really cool.
Yeah, the lighting in
with
particular.
lighting people, just, the shot compositions.
The, like, really grand and, like, dark and cluttery set design
Yeah.
is so similar to, like, Deckard's apartment, which
It's true.
for me is, like, that's
Or-
peak visual.
Like, overly clean sets too. Like, again, I mentioned to you earlier, there's that shot in, like, when the journalist is, like, reading Thatcher's journal, diary, whatever, and it's just like everyone's kind of silhouetted. There's like a big shaft of light coming in, and it's just
that was
big
cool.
empty room.
Also
with just a
very
table
Blade
and
Runner,
it's-
yeah.
I immediately thought, like, this is the most Blade Runner thing I've ever seen in a non-Blade Runner movie.
He did it
And
first.
then-
And even the way that the dialogue functions with, like, the kind of pacing that, like, people interrupt each other with.
Yeah.
The way that the dialogue is written. I mean,
And I saw that noted as a very radio kind of trend, I guess, was the overlapping dialogue, which was, again, not very common in film, but totally works. And, again, reminiscent of a lot of other modern movies.
When it's used in Blade Runner, it really makes you think. Like, it does challenge. It feels like it challenges film conventions of the time, too. Like, in that way. And Little Women, like, recently did that. And it was like, oh, this is very... It instantly makes it feel like, oh, this is very different than just like the paint by numbers adaptation that I was
Mhm.
expecting, you know, like just having interrupting in your movies
It's just more
is a
alive.
big effect that like
Yeah.
is just not used. Yeah.
But it's so realistic. Like
Mhm.
I'm never in a group of people and everyone takes their turn talking. Like it
Right.
just makes it
We
feel
do it.
so present and way more alive than anything that's more structured.
I mean, listen to this podcast. We're
Exactly,
constantly
yeah. True.
interrupting each other.
Like it's sometimes it's still very like cinematic dialogue and what they're saying and stuff. You know, it's not like the most real thing, but like just the act of the overlapping just makes it feel more natural in a way.
Mhm.
I feel like
Mm.
it's very, very cool.
Yeah, and also, I mean, heck, another thing Blade Runner takes is like the interview kind of a
Yeah.
style, you know,
Mhm.
like that's what this entire movie is kind of centered around.
true.
But like, that's how Blade Runner opens,
Mhm.
you know. Anyway, we'll talk
Indeed.
about it when we get there.
Hey,
Woot
can't
woot.
wait. It's gonna be a long time.
But-
Who's reviewing that one again?
I don't know.
I think it's probably me because I think I would
Probably.
probably kill one of you
I was gonna
guys to
say,
do
You
that.
might
That's what I
force him with that
also
one, which is
thought.
fine.
Yeah. But man, like
Um,
when I first saw Blade Runner, it was just like eye opening. Like I've never seen anything that does this.
mhm.
And then I saw this movie and I was like, oh, this does all of that
40
And-
years earlier.
40 years earlier. But like that's the thing is it's not like the stuff that he's done is overdone now. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Like it was considered one of the greatest films of all time. It's massively influential, but it's not like you see this and you're like, yeah, that's been done 1,000 times now. Like there are some elements of it that have been done a lot, but
Mhm.
like it's not really like people are just remaking this movie, you
Right,
know?
for sure. Yeah, it's like the best use of a lot of these things too,
Right.
and just putting them all together. It's just like every element of it is just really solid, for sure.
My gosh.
It cost $839,727
Hmm.
to make. That
Okay.
was the final cost that RKO recorded at the time.
It's a decent amount less than some of the previous
Mhm.
movies we've covered.
It's not the worst.
But how much did it make?
I don't know. I can find out though.
And also, why is this not on the Criterion Collection?
Box
True.
office
Gosh.
1.6 million, including re-releases.
Okay. So
Sure.
it would have eventually made its money
Yes, I
back
think
when
so,
it got
yeah.
re-releases,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, but like not even by very much.
right.
Like, it's not $300,000. Not a huge profit, at least for the time anyway. And I guess less later. Also, more fun production things. They made a trailer, and it doesn't have any footage from the movie in it.
That's cool.
The trailer is like just as wild as the movie itself, I guess. Like,
Huh.
and I haven't watched it, but I'd like to. They're saying like it's almost kind of like a joke, like fake documentary about the film's production, and it's actually the only source of behind the scenes footage of the movie that exists. is
Man,
the trailer.
only Orson Welles.
Exactly.
I mean, I guess that's kind of what he did again with The Other Side of the Wind. Is like
probably
It's like a fake documentary about the making of this film that
about
doesn't
itself.
exist.
It's weird. Oh, I had more stuff. Oh man, I have like a whole list of all the like weird techniques that are kind of included. Is there anything I need to get to before I do that, or should I just keep doing?
Keep
that?
trucking
I'm
along.
on that
man. This
train.
is
We'll
fun.
hit some other points because there are other interesting parts of this. How far in are we? 38 minutes.
Yeah.
Wood.
Hooray!
This
So the
is-
flashbacks.
Interesting.
It's fun. It's like like just all the production around it. We talk about it for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. So you've got maybe unreliable narration as well as the flashbacks because a lot of your perspectives you're hearing from are old people. So
Mhm.
or they're old now, and they weren't then. The deep focus was a big one, and that was something that Toland was kind of pioneering as like a cinematographic trick. Like that's like where you get foreground, background, everything all in focus at the same time.
Mm.
And there's different ways to accomplish that, of course, but like this is a way of doing it where it's like you get it in one shot.
Hmm.
Because I guess if you make your aperture on your camera really small and also assist it with like a really wide angle lens, you can just get everything
Gotcha.
like all in one go.
That makes sense.
Um,
Yeah, and the camera movement,
Mhm.
like when it's there, it's just. I mean, obviously
That's
it's
really
shockingly
interesting.
smooth,
Yeah.
but it's also there's so much of the way that it's framed that
Mhm.
like, and I've talked about this with a bunch of different people, but we very rarely see movies that have like that z-axis
Yeah.
of depth, you know, where like the camera can like push through
Mm-hmm.
into the next room or something like that,
Right.
they do in this movie.
Yep.
But like another good example of a movie that like actually does that is Columbus.
Yes.
But it's just like that's what makes that movie like so cool, is just the
Mhm.
way that like you can shoot something and you don't have to make everything like a conventional mid or a close up, like, and you don't have to do just like super wide Wes Anderson shots either.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can have something that has, you know, sure it has, you know, what is that x-axis, like, you know, width to it, but
Mhm.
it also has like things are happening in the background and the foreground and everything, and there's interesting things to look at in all those places, and I guess that deep focus would have really helped in being able to
Right.
achieve that for sure.
Yeah, I guess, like there's a few scenes you can point to that are kind of big examples. Like one of them is the one early on where like you've got young Kane playing in the snow, like outside the house in the background, but you can also see the father in kind of the middle and also the mother and Thatcher in the front. And like it's all in focus simultaneously.
Yeah.
I guess there was like a conflicting story saying that maybe little boy Kane was rear projected,
Mm.
but it's also talked about as a deep focus thing, so that seemed to
Hmm.
be a little bit conflicting. But that's one.
Well,
that's
no,
talked
you'd
about.
have to still focus on it though.
Right.
Like even if it's
Exactly,
rear
yeah,
projected,
too.
because it's
I think it's
still
being
practical.
used.
A rear projection is
Yeah.
it's got a practical effect.
Impressive regardless.
Yeah,
But there's also some scenes.
and that rear
where,
projection
like,
looks pretty good.
Oh yeah,
like
there's definitely
a
some
lot of rear projection does not look good. Like I did not point that out in The Great Dictator, but that gag with the train.
Ooh.
Unfortunately, the rear projection in that scene just is so
Yeah.
unbelievable. Like, just doesn't work.
Mm.
He has some good examples,
Yeah.
but like, getting it to look as good as he
Mhm.
Orson Welles got it.
Right.
there is
It's
just
in this
impressive.
movie a fair bit. It all looks pretty good. There's some like full focus shots that were not done with deep focus that was interesting too. Like there's the one where older Kane is up in the front on the left, like finishing the bad review, and then
Mhm.
Leland is approaching in the back. And it's all in focus. It's all pretty clear. That wasn't possible apparently with the deep focus technique.
Hmm.
So they used an optical printer to kind of layer a couple of different parts of film together
Gotcha.
and just
Yeah.
make it all look clear. And
And wasn't
optical
the
printing, I guess, worked with
the optical printer, was that something that we talked about being used
it.
in?
I think so.
Was that the one that was in Snow White or King Kong? I can't remember,
I don't
because they were both
recall.
like ways of combining.
Probably something like that, but
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, but okay, that reminds me of that one bit that like absolutely blew my mind.
Mm.
When Leland is like, you know, talking about like as the old man, he's like, you know,
Yeah.
talking about stuff,
Mhm.
and that like part
they
that's,
fade
like,
out the room.
just shadowed like
Uh-huh.
is the other scene,
Hmm. I really liked that too. Yeah.
and then it fades out,
Boy.
but like
I assume that was optical printer work as well. Like,
yeah, I
probably
mean
just
that
putting those
would
things together.
be
I don't know a lot.
yeah.
About it, I guess.
in that case that's the kind of stuff that really was pioneered with
Mhm.
King Kong.
Nice. Yeah, that
Um,
was really fun. Very impressive. Another one was when Kane and another guy like break into Susan's room after she attempts suicide.
Mhm.
And again, she's in focus. They're in focus. The whole thing. They said that was they called it an in-camera matte shot. So they like lit her in the foreground and kept the background dark, rewound the film, darkened her, and lit the background and ran it again. And I guess that just lit both parts of the film correctly so that it could all be in
Yeah.
focus. at
They
the
just,
same
like,
time, which was
overlap
very
it?
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you
That's-
basically just record the same film twice, but you do light different
Oh.
parts of it.
Yeah, they also use that technique in King Kong.
Yeah,
That's
we
so
got More
cool.
of that.
Except here it's just so much more like smooth, and it's not done
Mhm.
for the sake of like combining a bunch of weird like you know special effects. It's
Right.
like
Miniatures.
it's just a
Just
very
people.
like interesting artful process just to try to do things that like at the time was not possible.
Right.
With the filmmaking, which is
That sounds so
cool.
time consuming too sometimes.
Yeah, like the amount of like labor. Like the thing is, in a weird way, it's worth it with King Kong, because you're very obviously pushing technology forward and you're making a spectacle that everybody's going to be wowed at.
Mhm.
But like with Citizen Kane, very easily people could just be like, just believe it, like,
Right.
because you don't know
Yeah, a
that
lot of it.
it's not possible to get both of those things in focus,
Mhm.
So like it's more about like getting this product more so than like wowing the audience with
Right.
the technical effects, which is makes
It's
sense
kinda
for
cool.
somebody's first movie who's not like super into film. It's like, I want to do this.
Mhm.
How do we do that?
Yeah, and then ideally it kind of ends up being somewhat invisible.
Mhm.
Like
Exactly.
doesn't necessarily draw attention to itself, but you notice.
Yeah.
It does change the way that you
Mhm.
interact with looking at the scene.
Man.
So it's fun.
It's shot so interestingly for
Mhm.
somebody who only ever did theater and didn't have
Right.
to like think
Yeah.
about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Just
That when he gets
really
there, he's
going
like, no,
into it.
I'm gonna be really creative with this.
Yeah. Mhm. But yeah, just being like, can we do this? And having a guy with them that's like, I'll figure it out.
Right.
Yeah, I love that open-mindedness
Right.
of just like, well, let's
It's
just
really
try
cool.
it,
Right.
and just made it work.
I mean, we've also talked about a lot of movies that feel very theatrical,
Mhm.
Yeah,
like it very easily just could be a play, but this does not feel like
I
that,
didn't get that at all.
which is
No.
man, it just shows like how like all in he is on these
Mhm.
things. And I mean, he's worked
Uh-huh.
with so many different mediums, I guess, that like
Right.
I was
I
gonna
guess
say,
he's just willing to dive in all
It's
the
kind
way
of
in on
mastered
pretty
a
much
lot of
everything he
different
does.
things.
mm,
Another fun thing they mentioned is the lightning mix, which I guess is another kind of radio thing that they brought over. It's basically just when like you've got the montage of things and like a character starts a sentence in like the past kind of shot and then finishes it in a way in a like a different time period, which is the next shot, which they
Mm.
kind of did earlier. I think I noticed when they're kind of in the first few flashback scenes.
Yeah.
It happens, and that's kind of fun. That's kind of a smaller one, just more of a narrative structure thing. The makeup is wild because
yeah.
boy, they aged these guys
Oh yeah, right.
That
So
was
good.
so
It was
impressive.
really
though.
like
really, really well done, and
you
it
just
was
totally believe that they're these
Mhm.
really old people,
super convincing. I thought they looked very young and very old as they needed, and everything
just
in
like
between.
the Methuselah complex or whatever in Blade
Yeah.
Runner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So the makeup was pretty much entirely done by Maurice Siderman, a junior member of the RKO makeup department,
Hmm.
and he was basically just an apprentice. He wasn't a union member. He was a little baby boy,
Wow.
and like
Gosh.
he again went so hard on all this stuff. Like he was basically like taking plaster molds of everyone's face who needed to have aging done, and then just kind of worked on the bust that he would make,
Mm.
and like adding modeling clay, testing things out, making everything, because sometimes like basically prosthetics and extra faces basically were needed, but just basing them off of the original face, of course. But he like had like his own formula of like soft plastic to like make these out of,
Oh my
Mm.
gosh.
and then you just like paint it, pair it with a wig, and just like there's something about like a negative cast of like orange peel to like make pores on some of these, like it's bonkers. And then they were like underpainted with red, which kind of created a warm tone that the camera still picked up and kind of added to the lifelike nature of it. So I don't know exactly how all this came out. I would need to look deeper into it, but I think he basically just made like prosthetic faces, it sounded like, for these
Right.
guys as they
Wow.
were aging.
And
Especially
I mean,
for the older
I've
ones.
totally seen one like bigger budget movies made way later
Mm-hmm.
that don't look half as convincing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super good. And like it's the faces, it's the bodies, because like
Mhm.
Kane old has like a belly,
Yeah.
and
Right.
like his shoulders are different, and like he's
Just, like,
got like a little
The
bit
number
of
of movies
throat
that I've seen where
fat
you
and
can like
stuff.
just obviously see the bald cap. You
Mhm.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
And like
Mhm.
here it's just like
yeah. It's
I
I-
never even questioned it
stunning.
almost.
like there's a piece of me that was like, I mean, I know that they didn't, but like it works so it's so convincing that I'm like, did they really like did they film this like 30 years apart?
Right.
Did they do like a Boyhood with this? Like,
yeah,
Right.
but like
It's-
of course not. But
yeah.
I love
Super
that.
well done. Oh, there was lenses too.
Mm.
Hmm.
Kane specifically got like contact lenses that like just
Oh my gosh.
reflected how eyes change when they're older. Like just kind
Oh
of
my
took this
gosh.
youthful shine out of him. And apparently they were really painful. It was not good, but
Mhm.
they did get the intended effect done. So Sorry, Hannah, you go.
I was just gonna rant for a bit because
Go for it.
just you saying that made me excited because people in the film industry today will talk about, oh, you just have to meet the right people at the right time to like break into the industry, because some people are so passionate about bringing on like apprentices or people who are still beginning or learning, because people who are not tainted by like being tired of the industry or have just been at it so long just give their all and are just more creative, and you just get better work out of them because they're just fresh minded, I think. So it sounds like he was just, I don't know, I don't know, I just love that collaboration, that he was kind of new to it and the makeup guy was new to it, and then they like blew everyone out of the water.
It just like, and I guess Siderman, the makeup guy, like almost didn't, or I don't know if he got credited actually.
Really?
I think he wasn't fully credited.
I feel like other people would just be too scared to let someone learning take over.
Right.
And there he was.
It is very
nailing it.
Weird.
Man, I mean, what a good move on RKO's part.
I know.
Oh gosh, it's insane.
That's awesome.
Like, it was insane at the time. Never got anything like it after.
Whoever made that decision deserves some sort of like, I don't know, Nobel Prize or something.
Yeah. What? Was it 1940? Sorry, what year was this one again? 1941, okay.
Oh, yeah, so it was RKO makeup department head Mel Burns refused to share credit with Siderman, who was only an apprentice. Wells told Burns there would just be no makeup credit. And then there was a large ad in the LA newspaper that just said, like, thanks to everybody who gets screen credit for Citizen Kane, and thanks to those who don't, blah, 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 particularly to Morris Siderman, the best makeup man in the world.
That's
so
great.
Nice.
He did try to get it out there. Like, I think he really tried to praise everyone around him for what they did, and it was good work. Like, he was calling Greg Toland also, like, the best cameraman, cinematographer ever. Like, he's like,
We love
this guy is
support.
the
Which, I
best.
mean, like, based off of how this movie looks, yeah.
Not wrong entirely, at least.
Go with them. They just sound like the dream
Yeah.
team.
Like, the two
It's
best looking
bonkers.
movies we've covered so far, obviously Passion of Joan of Arc and this, and
Indeed.
very different approaches to the cinematography.
Right.
But,
Excellent work.
gosh.
For sure.
Just the kind of thing that's like, I don't know, something feels boring to me about what a good looking movie looks like now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because they all fit a very similar, very achievable aesthetic for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to be deacons, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like washing it with color and it's gorgeous. But like I really like how varied so many of these movies look, you know, like back before there was just like no, the way every movie looks is just kind of standardized, you know? Like there's some really interesting stuff going on as early as the 20s, and I want to see more movies shot like this.
Right.
I know. I was gonna say, why don't we see people breaking the mold like that now?
Right. Yeah, because like I can only think
hard to find.
I can only think of like basically the original Blade Runner is shot like this.
Mm.
Like even 2049 doesn't look like this. It's
Not-
a
not
different.
quite.
It's
It's
a
much
more
more
modern
modern, yeah.
2017 look.
Mm-hmm.
Even just
So I want to see more like this. Yeah.
Yeah, like this specifically, and I just don't even think I watch movies and am very impressed with cinematography very often.
Mm-hmm.
Like 1917 was the last one that had shots that really caught my eye,
Yeah.
but I can't think of
fun.
any other recent movies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's like if it's not Deacons, it's either somebody trying to be Deacons or somebody
Right.
just trying to be like pull an Aquaman and just like use a bunch of weird special effects that are obviously fake, but like it's still fun, you know?
I love it.
I love it
I
too.
haven't seen that one yet.
It's
It's
know what?
fun.
it feels weird saying that while we're talking about Citizen Kane.
Right.
Aquaman is surprisingly good.
Okay.
It's very, I tell this to everyone, it's very dumb, but it knows it's very dumb and just has a lot of fun.
Fair.
So like
Mm-hmm.
that's it.
Cool.
It's a good time.
It's like, I mean, for me, it's the peak of the very dumb movie
Mm-hmm.
because I would not like it if it wasn't trying to do it. You know what I mean?
I like if it was trying to be cool.
If it thought it was being really cool,
Right.
Yeah,
then it would be irritating to me.
that's fair. It is
Like,
Aquaman,
It
so
feels, it's so stupid that it has to be self-aware. Like
Right.
it feels like it has its tongue firmly in its cheek, as they
Mhm.
say, and just yeah, I would like to see it again. I've still only seen it the one time. Would
think
totally
I've seen it
watch again.
Thrice.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I think I saw it 3 times in theaters.
Oh my
actually.
gosh, I'm jealous.
So maybe I've seen it 4 times. I don't even
I need
know.
to see it.
Oh my
Gosh.
gosh. That's how
I
many
think
times I
we-
saw La La Land in
I think
theaters.
that
Really?
Dedication. Yeah, I
Jesus.
saw La La Land 3 or
Crazy.
4 times in theaters.
I only saw it the one time with you guys, and it was a good
Oh,
experience.
okay.
I think it was Hunter's second time,
maybe.
and you were like, I don't how do you feel about it? And I was
Yeah.
like, it's really good.
Of La
Because
La
I didn't,
Land?
yeah,
or
because I didn't like musicals.
Oh, yeah.
So you were a little trepidatious, and then I was like, well, I like jazz,
Yeah, right.
Do you like
It's got
jazz?
jazz.
and I
Wow.
did.
I
So-
think that a friend of the pod, Luke, who has never been into DC films, is maybe coming around to DC and has talked to me about watching Wonder Woman finally.
Mm-hmm.
After me egging him onto this
Oh
for
my word.
years,
I do like that movie.
might also watch. Maybe we can get him on Aquaman as well.
He would love
I
Aquaman
think so.
and Shazam.
I think so. Oh,
Would
definitely.
really
Shazam.
enjoy
I can't
Shazam.
remember if he maybe he's seen Shazam. I'm not sure. He needs on this train. He's never seen a Batman movie. We've talked about that. We'll get
we
it.
did.
It's going to be okay. It's whatever. That's besides the point. Anyway, Citizen Kane.
Anyway, none of those are Citizen
They're
Kane.
not Citizen Kane. We like them, but they're not this.
The phrase "it's no Citizen Kane."
What is?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, nothing is anyway, and
Mhm.
nobody's trying to be. And I'd like to see more people try.
Yeah, please do something fun, interesting. It's hard, I guess, when you've been making movies for 100 years and finding new ways to kind of spin that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe is a little hard, but
That's how all art
I don't
forms
know. Just be
get
solid. Just
stagnant.
construct it so tightly, I guess. Just
Mhm.
like
Mm.
make every aspect just beautiful, perfect. Or maybe we're just used to things being like good, good enough,
so
and then we
sad.
just don't blink, and then it's just like I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
People are just so, I don't know, especially modern day. I don't know if I'm taking what you're saying out of context, but my brain's just,
I don't even know what I'm saying, so
I guess just
go for
thinking
it.
back of all the thoughts of like how they shot Citizen Kane so uniquely and it just worked so well. And I want to see more stuff like that. But now I think even more than ever, like the industry just relies so much on people's expectations because they can crank out 80 Marvel movies that are all kind of the same formula.
Mm-hmm.
People know what they're expecting, so they go see it and they make a ton of money.
Right.
it's true.
No one's willing to like take risks and
Mhm.
try something brand new.
And that even comes down to them trying to get people on board by like, we're picking out this like one indie director.
Right.
And then the indie
Yeah.
director's like, wait, but I don't know how to do action. And they're like, don't worry, we'll have people to direct the action for you.
Yeah.
Like that's how paint by numbers some of this stuff
Right.
gets.
It's
Right.
just there's
We've got to action people, don't worry about
right.
it.
I just don't feel much creative genius or risk anymore,
Mm-hmm.
or I just don't see it very frequently.
Because all people want is like, they just want the like emotional gut punch.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of people, the emotional gut punch only really involves what's something you're nostalgic for. We'll just put that on screen. That's all we have to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you'll get the emotional gut punch, and people will be sobbing in Endgame, and then, that's it.
Right.
And we make all of the money, so why
Right.
would we bother, like, trying to do these interesting
New
things?
things, right? I know what works for me to make money, so I'm not going to try something new.
Right.
And there's still like obviously movies with a level of excellence. Greta Gerwig, Little Women.
Right. And that
Holy
is
cow.
the best. That's actually probably the best, the most modern, like, equivalent of
Maybe yeah.
RKO getting Orson Welles to just like make a movie
Mhm.
is Mattel being like, no, we need Greta Gerwig and Noah
Yeah.
Baumbach to do the Barbie movie.
Yes.
You know,
Oh, so
True. I'm
excited.
so anxious
like
to
it's
see
a stroke of genius that probably isn't going to make it as much money as they would
that.
want.
All right.
But holy crap, is it going to make something very interesting?
Mm-hmm.
And I
That's
wish that
what I
was
want.
more. I wish that was more what people were trying to do.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's got to be a business because that's the world we live in.
Right. I think TV shows take more artistic risk
I guess sometimes
now.
they can.
Sometimes some of the streaming services are
Yeah,
starting
like
to.
that's something I do appreciate about Netflix is that
Yeah.
Netflix is often just like, we will get people on board for our streaming service solely based off of like the fact that people have respect and interest for the fact that we're like putting in weird stuff on there,
Right.
that we're giving something a chance that nobody else is going to give a chance.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And man, that is destroying them financially. Actually, like they put in so much more money
True.
than they can afford to do. Like,
Netflix?
yeah,
I did
Yes.
not know that actually.
they have like currently, I think 70% of America subscribe to them. They want to get 80%, and they're. I mean, that's so unheard of. It's almost impossible. Like they aren't going to hit that, but they've been
Probably took a
funneling
dip just
so much
now,
money into Netflix
too.
originals that like it's really starting to hurt them.
Well, they're cranking out quality,
It's
or
more than
sorry,
they're actually making right
they're
now.
cranking out quantity over quality. Like
Mhm.
they release content so rapidly,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes everyone think like, oh, Netflix is top of the game,
Right.
but they're not. Like even people when Mandalorian on Disney Plus came out, everyone was like, whoa, Mandalorian is so good.
Mhm.
Kind of mad at Disney Plus for not having more original content, and it's like it's because they're taking time to make pretty quality original content.
Right.
Wait for the next season.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Even I think Hulu has a few originals that are pretty
Yeah.
successful,
Oh,
Mhm.
totally. Yeah.
but they don't release nearly as fast as Netflix.
Right.
And I guess that also comes down to like, you can have some that take a lot of time and do have quality, because there's definitely those, but like
Right.
you have so many sources.
Yeah.
Like you're getting stuff
Yeah.
from a lot
It's
of people
overwhelming.
that like
Like-
some of them are bound to be stinkers. So
Like, obviously Netflix is, it had Voltron, which is like a really fun show. It's
There's a lot of
got
good
like The
stuff.
Witcher, which is also like
Yeah.
pretty dang good.
Mhm.
And then on the movie end, like you've got everything from like Scorsese movies to Baumbach movies
we
to
just
like
got the new Charlie Kaufman.
new Charlie Kaufman
Mhm.
movie. Like they are funding like really
Yeah,
good stuff,
great
for
Right.
sure.
But
yeah.
like for every one of those, there's like whatever that other military movie is that just came out, or that other
Mhm.
one, or that other one, or that other
Yeah.
All
one.
the
Lot of
stupid like
chaff.
chick flicky. We watched Love Guaranteed the other night.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Huh.
Like they make a lot of garbage.
It was painful.
Yeah.
Painfully cheesy.
But at least they're getting in like some really good stuff in there too. So it's like
Mhm.
it's a
It's a mixed
weird
bag.
mix. Like I don't know if this can last forever for Netflix.
Yeah, me neither.
But it's at least nice that they're giving these projects a chance that like
Right.
who would be giving them that chance otherwise,
Yeah.
you know?
That's
Mhm.
fair.
So
And
I
it's
don't know.
fun sometimes. Like there's the really wild creative stuff is out there, but it's definitely very fringe. Like we
Mhm.
watched Mandy the other day.
Oh my gosh.
Mandy is just like 100% Mandy and 0% anything else. And
That's a
like,
good way to put it.
but like,
That's funny.
I'm sure it made very little money. And just
Oh my gosh, I could not
haven't
imagine
looked,
that
but,
movie.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
imagine very many people saw it, but like, boy, it's cool.
It's like here's the best way I could pitch Mandy.
Okay.
They somehow found a way to make a movie with Nicolas Cage in the lead where he could entirely be Nicolas Cage and the movie would still be good.
What? It was
is
good?
It was
possible.
really good.
Oh my god.
I don't think you would like it.
It was
at all.
really
don't-
it was really
Mm.
weird. I watched the movie upside down.
Yeah.
I sat upside down to watch that movie
Nice.
because it felt like it demanded that.
Okay.
It felt like I had to watch it upside down.
That
And
sounds like artistic risk.
Yeah.
I dig it.
It was cool. It's the only movie currently under my Letterboxd tag of watched upside down.
Nice. Okay.
Probably
I
will
only
remain the
liked
one.
Nicolas Cage in the National Treasure
Oh,
movies as part of
yes.
my childhood.
Right, yeah.
I don't
It's
like
not that.
He
He's a
disturbs me
bad-
and everything else.
He's just over the top and uncomfortable and a bad actor. And
Yes.
somehow that
But like
makes
that's
this movie
kind of
work.
the point. He doesn't have
Like
to
he's
say
an
a lot, he
asset to
just
this
has to-
movie.
I can't
would
even
not
believe
have cast
his
anybody
career is
Yeah.
as good as it is.
Love it.
Well,
Love
he
it, love it.
just says yes to every project because he needs money,
That's fair.
essentially.
That's
Which is
fair.
Have you
also
seen his
why he's
outfits?
done like what
You've
he
got
did-
to like, I can't remember if I've showed you, but I need to show you his outfits from the Mandy premiere and from the Color Out of Space premiere because he dresses real fun.
He's a weird guy.
He is
Weird
really
dude.
weird. He really wanted to be Superman. He
Oh,
almost
gosh.
was. He almost was Superman.
Oh.
Nicolas Cage?
Yeah.
No.
He bought like the original comic book like in preparation for his role as Superman.
Jeez.
He was manifesting it.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
And then it got stolen.
Ah, fate
course.
stepped in.
Yeah.
Fate was like, "Oh no, sir, you're not going to disgrace this role."
We'll just
Henry
let
Cavill, where
Henry
you
Cavill,
at?
a really good actor who totally fits the role,
And
be
looks
in bad movies that don't. Oh man, that is frustrating because it's like Henry Cavill is the perfect Superman, and those movies are not the perfect Superman
Man.
movies.
But
Love my boy Henry.
oh, I love him.
I love him so
I'd
much.
also marry him on the spot.
He's really,
Sorry, Ryan Gosling.
Oh.
Oh my gosh.
Mission Impossible Fallout. is a movie that I did not really expect to think anything of, but he just stood out. Anyway, none of this has to do with Citizen
We got
Kane once
Anyway,
again.
sorry.
There, but it's all good.
This was relevant topics, though, to get on a tangent for.
Kinda, yeah. It's all good. It was fun. Apparently, some have said that the films of Paul Thomas Anderson have come closest, perhaps, to capturing the magic that Citizen Kane captured. Like, There Will Be Blood and The Master, I guess. have
Yeah,
kind of
no,
been
I
called
mean,
out.
that makes sense. Like, that's for some reason, that's immediately what my head went to when we were talking about it, was PTA movies.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just kind of maybe similar ways of looking at characters and
Mm-hmm.
constructing things.
We should watch Punch Drunk Love.
I would love to watch
Ooh,
Punch
ooh,
Drunk Love. And just other PTA movies that I have not seen. 'Cause
Right.
I've only seen a few.
They're all really
Couple.
good. We have one of them on this list.
Indeed.
If I did not have the strict rules that I gave myself on this list, we would definitely have like 4 or 5 of them on here, because he really is just like probably the most, out there interesting
It's really
director
great.
at the moment. Like,
Mhm.
probably not the very most interesting, but he's pretty up there. It's just
He makes
somehow
good
he
work.
makes a project and you're just like, for some reason I just did not expect that somebody would make this movie.
Yeah.
Like, even though I know how you do things, PTA, I just did not expect it again.
Indeed. There's lots of people who really like this movie and say it's like their favorite thing. Ingmar Bergman did not like Citizen Kane.
Ooh.
Called it a total bore. Above all,
Rude.
the performances are worthless. The amount of respect that movie has is absolutely unbelievable.
Wow, mean.
Dang.
Hey, I have a
I don't know how I
question.
feel about
Yeah.
that guy now.
What did Hitler think of this movie?
I have no idea. Did not come across that weirdly.
I need to know every movie Hitler's reaction.
Would have
He
come
did
out the
actually.
right
I'm
time.
pretty sure he had a notebook. I was reading. He has a little notebook and he logs the films that he used to log the films that he would watch, and he would write little reviews on them.
Oh my gosh, Hitler was a little film buff.
He
Movie
basically
nerd.
had a version of Letterboxd before Letterboxd.
Personal letterbox.
Originated by Hitler.
Paper version.
Don't think
no.
about that too hard.
I really don't like that Hitler was a film buff. Like, that makes me
It's
sad.
weird. I'm not going to do this. I was about to research it, but I'm not
No.
going to.
Oh,
Yeah,
I believe
it's
in
probably
you.
not worth
I'm
it.
just not going to.
No. It's okay. It's kind of a joke because
We'll
I feel like
add
we've
that
just tied
later.
Hitler in also
Right.
a lot.
No.
Yeah.
It's.
I
I mean,
don't
I guess
think he needs any more attention.
No.
You know?
you know who did care about this movie,
Ooh.
who had a very bad reaction to this movie.
Oh no.
Because the character of Kane was kind of somewhat based on other like big media moguls and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, where'd I put his name? Hearst. Something. Curses.
Curses.
My notes are bad.
I believe in you. That was me during Fantasia. I was like, I know I wrote this down,
Yeah.
but I can't find it. I'm gonna find it.
I'm just constantly swiping at
Yeah.
all times. Like,
Oh, I
where's it?
found
Where's
it.
it?
Oh shoot, I need
Here
to
you
be
go.
more organized.
So Kane, roughly based on American media moguls William Randolph Hearst. That was the big one. They also listed like Joseph Pulitzer and others. Hearst took this movie really badly. I guess some of them had known him, like Herman Mankiewicz, who co-wrote the script, like had known him and kind of fallen out of favor with him and disliked him. And Hearst forbade any newspapers that he owned from even mentioning the movie. Like,
Oh my gosh.
it was weird. There was a bunch
Dang.
of kind of drama around the release of this, and
I love
don't need
it.
to get into that. But yeah,
But the thing
he
is,
pissed
it's
some
not
people
like
off.
I don't know how I would take personal offense at a movie like this
Right.
because it's not like, oh, rich man bad. Like, it doesn't fully do that. I don't
no,
think.
it does it a little bit. I feel like.
Well, yeah,
not all the
but
way.
It
It's
feels
weird.
like a movie that's has a lot of shades of gray in there.
For sure.
You know.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess that can go into more just character study of Kane himself, but having that like weird branches of like trying to be very just like for the people, like help the little guy get the information out there. Except he does that by running what I now know is called yellow journalism, where it's just like it's not really getting information and truth out there. It's just kind of exaggerating headlines to sell papers.
Right.
which is great for making money.
Yeah.
Not so good for spreading information. And like he has this weird back and forth where he's like, no, I'm gonna like help people, and then also being like, I'm going to use the wealth that I've come into to like force the world to conform to the way that I want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's like obviously in the sense of, don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's bad. But
Don't
it's
do
also
that.
like spending a lot of time delving into him as a character,
Mhm.
not just painting him as he's just a bad guy
Right.
and then leaving it at that,
I really love that he has that line where it's like, if I may steal this from myself at the end of the podcast, something about like, I think I would have been a great man if I hadn't been rich or something.
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
that.
that,
And I
Mhm.
thought
I remember
that
that.
was really interesting.
And they're
They
like,
threw
how
that in there.
do you feel like you are now? And he's, like, I think
Right.
I'm doing
It's
good
like-
under the
right, like-
circumstances.
I'm pretty okay. Like,
Yeah.
could be a lot worse, but like,
But it could have been great.
just there's something about, I mean, as we see covered in many instances, there's something about just having obscene amounts of money that kind of changes people.
It
Mm.
does. Mm-hmm.
So,
And that's why Johnny Depp likes to be in a massive amount of debt at all times.
I guess
so he
so.
can just continue being the weirdo he is.
Yeah, he wants to be a great man.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, no,
Interesting.
as a character study, it's the kind of thing that just feels so complex that I think it does probably lend itself to a lot of rewatching,
mm-hmm.
and your idea of who he is would kind of be constantly in flux because it's a real person. Like
Right.
like it's a written character, but it's a real person in the sense that you aren't just like, these are the 4 characteristics of this person,
Mm-hmm.
and I know exactly what they would do every time, you
Right.
know?
the best kind of aspects of a character where they're like, it feels consistent, but also like they're just kind of this very deep well that you could never quite find the bottom of.
Right. Like, that there's something else that if somebody does something, like there's definitely catalysts for them
Mhm.
doing things that feel kind of out of the norm for what they would normally do,
Right.
but it also still feels like them.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool.
It's great.
And
Good-
I don't
it's
know
good
how
writing.
somebody writes that,
I think
That's
it's
impressive as hell.
the writing and the acting.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
he brought so much of himself into it. I don't know. Like
Mm.
humans are multitudes,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and so was he. Like, ugh, I don't know. I definitely want to watch this again.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
and that is definitely something I've heard on a lot of reviews, is people just being like, man, this is so rewatchable.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh,
You're
thank
right.
you.
Yeah.
Don't mind if I do.
Indeed, it lives up to the hype for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Ooh, I remembered more funny stories. Or one, he totally hurt himself making this movie.
Really?
Like while tearing up the room, totally like cut his wrist up. That was
Oh my
bad.
gosh.
There's the scene where he's like yelling at Geddes from the top of the stairs after like being found with Susan.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, while shooting that, he fell like 10 feet and busted himself up, and he had to wear like a steel brace.
Ow.
Or no, he was confined to a wheelchair for 2 weeks. That was what it was. He was like directing from a wheelchair for
Oh
like a
my
couple
gosh.
weeks.
Is that when they filmed the shots with the wheelchair?
I don't know.
Do you remember?
Oh,
At the
probably.
beginning?
Maybe.
With like the really, really shaky cam,
Yeah.
like peering through the fences at him being rolled around in
It
a
could
wheelchair.
be.
Was that him?
My source, Wikipedia,
My
didn't
sources
mention
confirm.
that, but it could be, honestly. It would make sense.
That's
But apparently he
funny.
did get back on his feet, and that's when he had the brace. And apparently in one of those really low angle shots, probably just, I think the one where they stuck the thing in the floor, when he's like having some confrontation with Leland, I think, you can see the brace apparently, like under his clothes.
Hmm.
So that was fun too. Also, I like that he put his own name at the end of the cast list.
Hmm.
He didn't put himself in that like video list, right? Of like, oh, these are the new people, and they show like a
Right,
little
even though
snippet
he
of the
was
person.
new
Yeah.
to
Right,
film.
he was the main dude, and he's like the bottom of the list. I thought that was
Yeah.
He just doesn't seem
seems very in character
self-absorbed.
for him. Yeah,
Yeah.
So rare.
And I still don't think that, like, at least from the documentary footage that I saw, he didn't seem self-absorbed so much as he was like, but you guys like me,
mm-hmm.
let me just make this thing. Like, he
Yeah.
was
Mhm.
so focused on the project.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. He was an artist,
Mm-hmm.
a real one.
And I mean, that's the kind of piece of art that, like, I'm really glad is still around.
Me
you know?
too. Yeah.
And that I really hope. I don't know. I don't like it and I've gone on this so many times, but when people are like, I don't like old movies.
I know.
Whatever, it's
It's
like,
like you're watching the
like,
wrong ones.
you can, yeah, if you were really like able to get to the point of like, there's so much richness in appreciating a movie like this,
Yeah.
you know, not in this like pretentious like way of like, you know, it takes a lot of effort. Like you have to be really smart to like keep up. No, you just have to like put in effort to
Pay
like,
attention.
yeah, just to try to see
Yeah.
what's there. And I guess that's the thing is like, that's the way that I try to look at film is just like, what is actually there in that film to get out of it instead of
Yeah.
like, what's it going to do for me? You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Because that's definitely the way, like we were talking about with like the MCU, like or something. You know, I just want that emotional like bit of
Yeah.
you know nostalgia, adrenaline, something, and then I'll go back home.
You're
and that'll be
comfortable and
it.
you know what to expect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But instead of having to be like but like what can I get from this?
Right.
What does this actually have for me to try to get out of it instead of that perspective of sitting there in your chair like zoning out and it doing something to you.
Right. Letting it happen.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone about the podcast like last week or something. And they were like, well, when are you going to start doing movies I've actually seen? I was like, we
Mhm.
just recorded Snow White and Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind and whatever. Not that we bank episodes.
We would never do that.
Never. But they were like, oh, sweet. And I'm like, those are the worst movies I've watched so far.
Really?
Like, the
Those are
fact
the
that you're
ones people
excited
know.
about Snow White and Wizard of Oz makes me really sad because you need to go watch Metropolis and Grand Illusion and,
Yeah.
Citizen Kane now. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know. People just don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Disgrace.
This is so I have a rule I've been following for the better part of a year. Actually, I think I've been following that all year. I can't give a movie 5 stars until I've seen it twice.
Mm-hmm.
I really almost broke the rule for this. I was just like this just does deserve it. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's no debate about it.
Yeah.
And it will do the same. Like I know this is just a 5-star movie, and I'm still debating whether or not I should just be breaking my rule because, I've watched I felt like I used to give 5 stars a little too easily
Yeah.
early on.
I do too.
But I've watched 200, 300 movies since then. Of having the practice of what really does matter, what sticks in my head.
Mm-hmm.
What feels like it really has that kind of importance
says
to me in the long run.
More about the movie than it does about your ability to stick to your rule too. I think it's
Mhm.
like, wow, that one deserves it. Like
Yeah.
out of all the films you've watched.
Mm-hmm. It definitely there's a few movies that I'll be like, there's probably a list of 10 movies that I've probably asserted are the best movie of all time, at least once or
This is
twice.
true. Yeah. Reading your reviews of lots of Kurosawa movies, and you're like, this is the best one. And I'm like, okay.
Kurosawa has so many best ones. It's so hard to tell.
Yeah.
For me.
It's great.
But a lot of those are this hits me for me personally in a way.
Mm-hmm.
If I was listening the best movies that I feel are just legitimately I can't imagine it being done better or this having more significance. I can't imagine there being another film with this kind of whatever, this energy. I mean, that's 12 Angry Men, which I'm excited to get into. That's Citizen Kane. For me, that's Patterson as well.
Mm.
And in a modern, way, it just has that kind of somehow every piece just kind of happened to fall together in this infinitely rewatchable somehow there's enough depth that your mind fills in the details. Actually, that's something that Chaplin says, is if you don't know how to deliver an emotion, turn your back to the camera and the audience will do the acting for you, is what he would say.
Fill the space.
And a movie that can get to that point where it gives you just enough that you're constantly ruminating on it
Yeah.
is for me that kind of
That's
that kind
cool.
of thing. So yeah, Patterson, Citizen Kane, 12 Angry Men, just really up there. Rashomon as well. I'll put Rashomon up there.
I wanted to mention that one because that one comes up, I guess, in the same conversation as this movie in some ways because of the kind of multiple viewpoint flashback structure.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently Kurosawa hadn't even seen Citizen Kane at the time he made that.
Yeah, no,
So,
I would
guess
not
they
have
didn't
thought
really
he
cross
would have.
paths. Yeah,
Yeah.
so they're kind of funny, but sometimes talked about similarly.
They do
for
it
that
in
point.
very different ways.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's very like, at least in Citizen Kane, I feel like maybe some of the narratives are kind of conflicting, but it's not immediately obvious to me,
Right.
I guess, in the ways
But that's
that
the
I
whole
noticed.
point of Rashomon.
The whole point of Rashomon is that like everyone is completely different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rashomon's fun.
Rashomon's really fun. We won't talk about it on this podcast.
Maybe a little.
Kurosawa definitely would have like 3 or 4 films on this list if I let myself, but you know what?
Restrain
We'll just go for Seven Samurai because
Yep.
Would we?
unequivocally everybody should see that movie. So
Indeed. I have perhaps a couple more pieces of trivia for you, and then I'm probably
Okay.
done. One, this is just kind of a very small thing, but kind of fun. The news on the march segment at the very beginning of the movie was kind of satirizing, I guess, the March of Time, which was kind of dramatized news documentary things that were shown in movie theaters by Time.
yeah,
And like that was the thing, and they were just like, here, we'll just do like that. And apparently it was edited by, or like kind of edited and put together by RKO's newsreel division for some extra authenticity of
Gotcha.
newsiness.
that's
which was
really
kinda
cool.
fun. And you know, most of the actors coming from the theater, Dorothy Commingor, who was Susan Alexander Kane, was not part of the theater group. She was discovered because Charlie Chaplin knew her and had discovered her and recommended her.
What?
That's
Yes.
really interesting.
Thank you,
So
Charlie.
there's your Charlie Chaplin drop for this
Heck
episode.
Plug
yeah.
in.
Again.
Yeah, well, actually, you gave me another Chaplin thought though with the news on the march thing.
Yeah.
That is those newsreels is actually how like Chaplin and his son would hang out. Is they'd go to see those newsreels
Oh,
because they were
interesting.
like, I guess you don't want to go just sit down, sit through another boring movie that probably isn't going to be any good. Was their perspective, so that we'll just go see the news,
nice.
and that was something he was like really into doing as well.
That's
Cool.
cool.
Yeah, it's an interesting
Nice.
concept. I know I
Hipster.
would be the kind of person that would do that
Yeah.
if those were around now. But
Kind of fun.
yeah,
Yeah, interesting.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I think that's all the big stuff. At least the
Been a
ones that
long one.
heckin' yes.
I found. Yeah, we're about an hour 20 in.
An hour 20. That's not bad.
Mhm.
There's obviously so much more we could talk about with
Right.
this film, but it almost feels like it requires multiple rewatches.
Honestly, yeah, I would
come back
rather
in on
watch
it.
it again just before
Yeah.
doing anything more.
That would be another fun thing we
So,
could do on the Patreon is like
Revisiting.
checking in on a movie we've watched in the past.
Mhm.
Giving it a second round and like seeing what there is.
Indeed.
Anyway.
Anyway.
Well, yeah, thank you guys for listening. If you want to give us a 5-star rating, that'll help people find us, which would be great. You could tell friends, and then people will listen to this.
Yay.
And then, what else? We got a Patreon, patreon.com/movie overload.
Sure.
We got
Hopefully
an
that's it.
Instagram at movie overload pod,
Yes.
Twitter at movie overload _
Perfect.
Our website is movieoverloadpod.com. Our Gmail is movieoverloadpod@gmail.com.
Woot.
Send us a bloody letter.
And hate tweets.
And hate tweets. I would love that.
Please.
Yeah, and make sure to cuss us out in your review, but still give it 5 stars.
Yes, we can take it.
We got most of our links to things, all of our links to things on our webby site.
Indeed.
Yeah. Also, I don't know. We haven't plugged it in a few weeks, but we do have the YouTube channel up.
Yes.
Where we
It
are
exists.
posting there's still the audio versions, but just for the people that prefer to listen on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
That's there. It's an option. You can just send that link to your friends. Be like, hey, what do you think of this pod? What do you think?
It's very
And-
What I
accessible.
think.
What do you think?
YouTube and Spotify are like the most commonly used platforms, I would
Mhm.
imagine. So
For podcasts?
Yeah.
or at
It's really
least just
surprising to me that
just
Spotify is as big as it is because
Mhm.
if I were to plug my personal favorite podcatcher, I feel like everybody should be using Pocket Casts.
Right.
But,
But if you're
I
not
use
like a
Spotify.
dedicated podcast listener,
yeah,
you probably still have Spotify,
exactly.
which just also happens to have podcasts. So then you just kind of have a way in.
Mhm.
And then
I
same with
use-
YouTube. It's like you
yeah.
don't necessarily go to YouTube for podcasts, but you have it and you already go there. So
So just
No.
do it.
I
True.
don't necessarily go to Stitcher or something. Like
If I stumble
Yeah.
upon a podcast on YouTube, I go find it on Spotify.
yeah,
Right.
I use Spotify.
exactly.
Yeah. But anyway, all of those things are available to you.
Yay!
So congratulations, you can listen to us if you want to. You can listen to us once on every platform.
Please.
Go ahead.
Please.
I
do
guess
it.
if you want.
Just like, these episodes are so re-listenable. Like, you can hear last week's
They
episode
are.
about how tired we were.
So sleep deprived.
Aw,
It was a good time, I'm pretty sure. I don't know.
maybe.
I hope so.
Hopefully.
Time will tell how that one is
It was
received.
fun.
I'm really interested to see, like, when we get far enough in that, like, we can tell the way our numbers, like, dip or, like, go up based off of the most recent episode,
The
know?
Fantasia
Maybe.
episode has
Right.
like 2 views.
There was some really interesting information in there, and I do think we had some fun detours,
Yes.
but some of them,
They were just a little lengthy because we were
We're-
too tired to realize.
us just sleeping verbally.
I thought
So
of a
good.
fun thing to plug.
Hmm?
While looking at stuff about this movie on YouTube, there is a channel, I think, called 100 Years of Cinema.
Hmm.
They're more or less doing something very similar to what we were doing, but in a video format.
Cool.
And they do like at least one movie from every year. They're definitely ahead of us, but like if you want something more like this in like roughly 10-minute videos, maybe also check that out because
Sure.
they
Now we have
actually
to cut
covered a
that
lot
out,
of the
Hunter.
same movies that we've done, and they're pretty good.
Competition.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
I'm
that's
just
fun
kidding.
too.
Yeah. in the interest of being friendly.
Exactly. Like
Go check them
it's
out.
very
Edits this
different
out
like
later.
style of content, but just kind of hitting the same notes. So
Yeah.
just being like, here's a movie, here's what it does that's cool. Like they did Duck Soup and like
Oh, nice.
Joan of Arc and a lot of other things.
That's
that we've
fun.
covered, so
Yeah. Also, Duck Soup is now on the Criterion
Yeah.
channel. So if you missed out on watching that at the time, you can go back now.
Yay.
And I guess we do recommend in general, like you'd probably be best served by watching the movie before listening to the episode. But
yeah, for sure.
we try to make it so you don't have to. Absolutely
More or
have
less,
to.
yeah.
But movies like this are just like, it's kind of hard to talk about,
Right.
without you having seen it.
And it's not even something that like I feel like you can spoil Citizen Kane and not ruin it.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't really matter.
It's
I
an
feel like it's more
experience.
just going through it and getting the details,
Mhm.
the small things.
Like, I mean, undoubtedly, I was glad that I did not remember
Mm-hmm.
the Rosebud thing. Like, I definitely had been told that before,
Yeah,
but I didn't really remember until I saw it.
gotcha.
Mm.
And I do feel like that was nice.
It's a fun reveal.
But-
Yeah.
But it also, like, it doesn't entirely mean everything, you know?
Right.
It's not- it's-
one aspect.
It's not a twist movie. It's
Mhm.
not a reveal movie. It's not a mystery box, really. Like,
Mhm.
that's kind of the point, I guess.
Right. It kind of presents itself that way and then kind of settles on like, well, I guess we don't have the answer and maybe it just doesn't really matter. And then kind of gives you the answer, but like at that point you're like, does it matter? I
Right.
guess it kind of does, but also not
It's
all the way.
him specifically saying like a jigsaw puzzle
Yeah.
really hit like a missing
liked
piece
that.
to a jigsaw puzzle, because it's like
Right.
we actually
Just one
we all
part of this mass.
last week finished a really giant
Yeah.
jigsaw puzzle, and there were like one missing piece or two, and it was like, on one hand this is frustrating, but on the other hand you still kind of have most of the picture, and it's
Mhm.
like, well, you want that thing really bad, that doesn't change everything.
Yeah.
And I just thought
It's
that
just
was
one
like
part.
a very effective metaphor, even though, like, the missing piece in the puzzle is like, I don't know, it's kind of a cliche, but like the way it's done here just hits different.
Yeah, I liked the way they did that. It was kind of small and quick, but I was like, ooh.
Also,
did
shout
kinda
out
hit
to
me
the
different
fact that like that reporter is like in shadow the entire
Yeah.
time, and you never
Mm.
fully see
It's
his
really
face.
cool. Yeah.
Apparently, like,
Artsy.
they said a bunch of the people in the room after the newsreel who are shadowed are like actors that appear in other roles later or something,
Oh,
and you
okay.
just don't realize it because you can't really see their faces.
Right.
I have not confirmed who these people are, but I read that that was true, and I agree that like you'd never really get his face is not drawn attention to, at least, like even if
Yeah.
it's kind of better lit, he's not like in focus.
Mhm.
And I usually see the back of him, or he's in shadow, and it is cool.
Yeah, because he's not the point.
Yeah, he's doing a role that's kind of carrying you through the story. Like he's the person who like goes to a person and is like, "Hey, tell me about the dude," and then they do.
But he's not the end all be all of the story. He's
Mhm.
not someone that you need to
Yeah,
connect with.
he's not a character
Yeah.
per se.
it's good.
I
I
just
really like the
remembered-
details where he's like, yeah, we don't need to feed this bit to you. You don't need to have this piece, but you
Mhm.
can have this piece. And just
Mhm.
like very, like when people are very intentional in their storytelling of like what information the audience does have.
Right.
And that's just like done to the level that this is done. It makes a movie far more interesting, even if you're removing information, you know,
Mm-hmm.
which is wild. I love the way
Indeed.
that our brains work.
It's pretty great.
It makes like
Also-
stuff like this so much more interesting.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway,
My small other note is that in discussing that, I remembered how fun and quirky old Leland is in the hospital, and I love him.
he really wants a cigar.
He really wanted that cigar, and just like the way he was done was
He was just
it was
talking about
funny.
those nurses directly in front of them.
Yeah, like everybody else is so like old and sad, and he's just like, yeah, he'll just like without missing a beat, like be talking, call for the nurse, keep talking, talk about the nurses in front of them. Like I don't know, he was great. That's it. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, he's a fun character. I probably wouldn't like him in real life, but he's fun.
Right.
Cool. Well, thanks guys for
Sometimes.
listening. Wait, did we said how we rated this, right? Like it's a 5-star.
Yeah.
5
It's
stars.
basically a 5. I don't know. Did we all give it 4.5?
I feel like I put 4.5,
Yeah.
but I
Right.
don't know why.
It's
Because
just
now
because I
talking
didn't
about it,
bump
I'm
up
like,
to a 5.
I know I've doubted myself, and I don't know why.
This was one that, like, for me, definitely hit the part of, like, objectively a 5. I don't know if my, like, if it's hit that, like, special personal enjoyment
Right. You have like a
level that I-
very small group of 5-star
right, like,
movies.
my 5-star level is kind of different even from yours, where it's, like, a 5 has to kind of hit some combination of, like, technical excellence, more or less, but also, like, it means something to me, like, more, and it just...
Right. Like it's like
it's a
informed your
movie.
life.
It's a movie I would save if my house was burning down, you know? Like,
Right.
it's that kind of thing, and
Yeah.
I don't know if it's that
I
for
feel like
me.
it could be
Yeah,
that
it
on
could be.
rewatches.
Yes, I would agree
Yeah.
with that. So I will give it another shot for sure. But for now, it's a 4.5 for me. And
Anyway.
it'll be a 5 for
And
you in
for
the
me,
future.
it's at this point very hard to tell whether I like this more or less than like Grand Illusion.
Yeah,
But it's
For
up
sure.
there. Time will
definitely.
tell. Rewatches will tell. They're all my top 50. So.
Yep.
All right. Cool. Well,
Cool.
thanks, guys.
We
did
did
it.
it.
We hit the
listening.
movie TM.
And as we say at the end of every episode of the movie Overload podcast,
I meant to prepare for this one.
You can reuse the
Uh,
other quote.
there's literally like
I'm not gonna say it. I refuse.
Rose.
No, that's the lowest hanging of all fruit.
But
Yeah.
it's funny.
but you realize that like you don't even go for the lowest hanging of all fruit, so you just sit there. You're just like,
I
no,
I need
know. Most of
something.
the
I'm
time,
protesting the fact
most
that I
of the
have
time-
to say words
I literally can't remember a single line.
from any movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like I get to that point and it's just like my mind goes blank because nothing stuck out unless I wrote it down or something, or it like was really great. And I am perhaps because now I'm like scrambling. I'm like, do I remember lines? Maybe, but like anything specific other than the first line of the movie, which was apparently the last scene they filmed. That's another point of trivia.
That's
for you.
interesting.
They filmed the death scene last.
Okay, so
I'm Charles Foster Kane. There you go. That's what he says. He says his name.
Cool.
That's
Good
what we
job.
say at the end of every podcast.
purple bacon, red
Purple
pineapple,
bacon.
blue banana,
No. We like
Yes.
We Bear Bears.
corgi
Anyway.
party.
Corgi party.
Yay.
That's the end. Let's
All
get
right.
out of here before
See you,
we
folks.
drive
All right,
down
bye.
another rabbit hole. Bye bye.